The Billionaires. We're going to sing a song or two and talk about why it's important for our interest to make sure that a candidate like Jim never gets elected, because he represents good government. All right, Mitch, you and I on this one, Jim and Christine on this one. By the way, when they take their hats off, a couple of our billionaires here are actually from Culver City and have an opportunity, when they stop being billionaires, to actually vote for Jim. So is it working? Track number one? No, it's over. Turn it
We will answer your prayers. We're the brazen billionaires. Let us give you the stars and the moon. When we pay campaign debts, it's a way to hedge our bets. Then the winner will dance to our tune. Sing hey, 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 buy a candidate today, and he'll become your buddy through and through. Sing ho, 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 if he's desperate for your dough, he will do what you tell him to do. We will roll all the shares, we're the brazen billionaires, we're determined to keep it that way. Though there's money to burn, we expect it in return, and we get what we want when we pay. Sing hey, 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 buy a candidate today, and he'll become your buddy through and through. Sing ho, 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 if he's desperate for your dough, he will do what you tell him to do. When we strut down the stairs, we're the brazen billionaires. Politicians start making a fuss. Let them bow, let them scrape, let them peel us all a grape. The election is paid for by us. Let them bow, let them scrape, let them peel us all a grape. The election is paid for by us.
Today is a very exciting day for the Billionaires because it's the anniversary of Citizens United, which was a wonderful Supreme Court justice decision that recognized the civil rights of corporate citizens along with their flesh and blood brethren. You know, we are the smallest, most beleaguered minority in the country. We represent less than 1/10% of Americans. And if it weren't for the fact that we could take all of our aspirations and aggregate them in the form of corporations, the rest of you rabble would just run over us, stampede us in the ballot box, and the only recourse we have is to take huge amounts of money and spend it to influence a lot of people who are not billionaires to vote for things that are in our best interest. It's the only thing we have, really. So people say, well, you're not human beings, you shouldn't have civil rights, but you know, so many things we have so much in common with human flesh and blood citizens. For instance, corporations value friendship. I'm sure you all value friendship. This is why we cultivate relationships with elected officials. And it's very frustrating because Jim Clarke is the kind of elected official who will not be the kind of friend to the billionaires. It's very frustrating because people say, well, goodness, why would you even show up here in this campaign office? Why would you leave your office suite, you know, your boardroom to come down here? It's a big picture kind of thing because here's what happens. If you folks are foolish enough to elect a fine candidate like Jim Clarke, somebody who's actually going to work for the people of Culver City, what's going to happen is he's going to bring a sort of era of good government to Culver City. He's going to be responsive to the people who are living in this city. He's going to be responsive to the greater community. And the thing is, then people in this community are going to be less cynical about government. It's going to be harder for us to manipulate them to vote against, for instance, raising revenue to provide services. You see, this is the thing. It's a big picture kind of thing. Supposing Jim does a great job as Culver City city councilman for a couple of terms, and people think, wow, this guy's really great. Oh, our congressional seat just opened up. That guy really did a great job. in Culver City on the city council. Just think what he could do in Congress. See, it goes from there, and then he comes into Washington, just hypothetically, and he doesn't have an agenda that is bought and paid for by the billionaires. See, there's a inviolable relationship between the corporate lobbyists and the politicians who live in their pocket that should not be, it's sacrosanct. It shouldn't be, you know, and the thing is, if we get rid of the rights of corporate citizens, we're going to sort of backslide to an era of one person, one vote, instead of $1, one vote. And I adjure you people to not support such a thing. There was Clarence Thomas. People don't know he's actually a poet. He doesn't say a lot during the Supreme Court hearings, but he actually wrote a poem. I want to recite a poem by Clarence Thomas. Back in 1886, in the Santa Clara case, corporations were perceived to join the human race. A humble little clerk made a tiny little note that stated they were persons, and it's what we love to quote. We're Scalia, Alito, Roberts, Kennedy, and Thomas. We all share a point of view, and we strive to do the job that they appointed us to do. When we render our decisions on some complex legal fights, we decide for corporations and support their human rights. A corporation's like any person you know because it likes to strive and it needs to grow. Like a human being, it only wants to succeed, and when it takes a hit, it can truly bleed. If there's a major jolt to the economy, it can fail, and that is proof of its humanity. Corporations are people too. They have a culture and a point of view. They have their needs and they demand their due. Yes, corporations are people too. A corporation's hungry for the latest trends, and like a human being, it just wants to make friends. And befriending politicians is a worthy aim. It can't vote, but it can buy them, which is almost the same. If a corporation's bloated and it can't deny it, it can downsize its workers, which is just like a diet. Because corporations are people too, doing everything they need to do and keeping up a tally of the folks they screw. Yes, corporations are like any movie star who rides around in a fancy car with a jacuzzi in the back and a stock wet bar and gets his way and won't take no and every day makes tons of dough. They're people too. So that was by Clarence Thomas. That explains his jurisprudence.